We're talking with Charlie Mitchell from Take Action News. And Charlie, the other issue I wanted to ask you about before we let you go, and that is the issue of gun control. Harry Reid has said that he's going to tee up a bill for votes in the Senate in early April. This past week, he indicated that he is not going to allow the ban on assault weapons, ban on high capacity magazines to be part of the underlying bill, which will include gun trafficking restrictions and perhaps background checks. Harry Reid said that these measures on high capacity magazines and assault weapons can be introduced as amendments. Explain why that is significant and why that likely dooms these issues in particular.
Well, according to Harry Reid, he has whipped this vote, meaning he's gone around to his Democratic senators, and he's determined that he doesn't have anywhere near 60 votes to pass the assault weapon ban, and remember, we had an assault weapon ban in the 90s for many years, and it was allowed to expire, and it hasn't been reinstated. A lot of people thought this would be the year in the aftermath of the horrible tragedy in Newtown when Congress actually would renew this assault weapons ban. But Reid doesn't have the vote, and Reid is very concerned about vulnerable Democrats who are up for election in 2014, people who are in states like Montana, John Tester, and some other states where gun rights are very important, and Democratic senators in those states are always very quick to point out that they are pro-gun rights and everything. So having it as part of the underlying bill created a difficult situation where Reid felt that he was going to be putting his most vulnerable senators in a position to vote for something where that would come back and haunt them come election day. The flip side of that is that a lot of people felt that Newtown was really the latest in a series of really horrible tragedies, and that it changed the equation, and that it would weaken the position of those who say you can't have something like an assault weapon ban. But apparently it didn't, and the math in the Senate says at a very, very base level that it just hasn't moved enough votes. So now Reid's decided to decouple it from the original legislation, the legislative package that he'll bring up. He'll allow votes on amendments, and it'll come up as an amendment for sure. Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, has vowed that she'll bring it to the floor, and she's still trying to gain support for it, as are many other Democratic senators. But it's likely it will fall short. Now, can you get through a bill, David, that includes the expanded background checks? And this is kind of the main question here of can you get into law that even private sales of guns, you have to check the background. You have to check the criminal and mental health record of the person who's buying the gun. There are probably 60 senators who would support that, and that would be a dramatic change in policy, and it would close a huge loophole in, who has access to firearms, and people who really shouldn't, people who have criminal records or people who have very, very severe mental health issues and all of that. These are people you're trying to prevent from getting the guns at the point of purchase. Now, there's a whole dispute that's emerged over that, though, and that's whether the private seller would have to keep records of these things. And the Republicans who've gone along with this have said, we'll go along with it, but we're not going to require private citizens to keep records of what they find in it, that's an undue burden. The Democrats say, well, if you don't keep records, you're kind of missing the whole point, and you're just losing the value of having this background check requirement in the first place. So it's a pretty fundamental disagreement, and it's stopped the progress on something that looked really promising in terms of pulling together a bipartisan compromise. And Congress is gone. They left at the end of the week for a recess. We'll have to see what happens when they get back, if the negotiators can resolve that.
Charlie Mitchell from Take Action News. Charlie, thanks as always, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Great. Thank you, David.